Hi, my name is Mohammad and welcome to my poetry reading. Nizar Qabbani was a Syrian writer, poet, publisher, and diplomat. He was considered by many as Syria's national poet and is one of the most popular names in the Arab world. He was born in Damascus or Dimashq in 1923 and he died in London in 1998. He has written more than 20 volumes of poetry and countless lyrics for Syrian, Lebanese, Egyptian, Iraqi, and other vocalists. His writing has sparked some controversy, as Middle Eastern poets tend to do. He wrote about a wide range of topics such as feminism, love, grief, religion, nationalism, and eroticism. Today I'll be sharing a poem of his called A Lesson in Drawing, or Darsun fil Rasm. I first shared this poem a few years ago at the KL Poetry Share in Malaysia, and it seemed to resonate with some of my friends. For me personally, I have a hard time describing this poem. A part of me almost weeps whenever I read it, particularly in its original Arabic. It was the same the first time I read it as it was when I read it in preparing for this video. I hope you find some meaning in it too. I'll be reading the Arabic version first and then the English translation. This is A Lesson in Drawing by Nizar Qabbani. Darsun fil Rasm. يضع ابني ألوانه أمامي ويطلب مني أن أرسم له عصفورا. أغط الفرشاة باللون الرمادي وأرسم له مربعا عليه قفل وقضبان. يقول لي ابني والدهشة تملأ عينيه ولكن هذا سجن. ألا تعرف يا أبي كيف ترسم عصفورا؟ أقول له يا ولدي لا تؤاخذني فقد نسيت شكل العصافير. يضع ابني علبة أقلامه أمامي ويطلب مني أن أرسم له بحرا. آخذ قلم الرصاص وأرسم له دائرة سوداء. يقول لي ابني ساخرا ولكن هذه دائرة سوداء يا أبي. ألا تعرف أن ترسم بحرا؟ ثم ألا تعرف أن لون البحر أزرق؟ أقول له يا ولدي كنت في زماني شاطرا في رسم البحار، أما اليوم فقد أخذوا مني الصنارة وقارب الصيد ومنعوني من الحوار مع اللون الأزرق واصطياد سمك الحرية. يضع ابني كراسة الرسم أمامي ويطلب مني أن أرسم له سنبلة قمح. أمسك القلم وأرسم له مسدسا. يسخر ابني من جهلي في فن الرسم ويقول مستغربا: ألا تعرف يا أبي الفرق بين السنبلة والمسدس؟ أقول يا ولدي كنت أعرف في الماضي شكل السنبلة وشكل الرغيف وشكل الوردة، أما في هذا الزمن المعدني الذي انضمت فيه أشجار الغابة إلى الميليشيات وأصبحت فيه الوردة تلبس الملابس المرقتة، في زمن السنابل المسلحة والعصافير المسلحة والديانة المسلحة، فلا رغيف أشتريه إلا وأجد في داخله مسدسا، ولا وردة أقطفها من الحقل إلا وترفع سلاحها في وجهي، ولا كتاب أشتريه من المكتبة إلا وينفجر بين أصابعي. يجلس ابني على طرف سريري ويطلب مني أن أسمعه قصيدة. تسقط مني دمعة على الوسادة فيلتقطها مذهولا ويقول: ولكن هذه دمعة يا أبي وليست قصيدة. أقول له: عندما تكبر يا ولدي وتقرأ ديوان الشعر العربي سوف تعرف أن الكلمة والدمعة شقيقتان، وأن القصيدة العربية ليست سوى دمعة تخرج من بين الأصابع. يضع ابني أقلامه وعلبة ألوانه أمامي ويطلب مني أن أرسم له وطنا. تهتز الفرشاة في يدي وأسقط باكيا. My son places his watercolors in front of me and asks me to draw him a bird. Into the color gray I dip the brush and draw a square with locks and bars. Astonishment fills his eyes. But this is a prison, Father. Don't you know how to draw a bird? And I tell him, son, forgive me, I've forgotten the shapes of birds. My son lays his box of pencils in front of me and asks me to draw him an ocean. I take the pencil and draw him a black circle. My son says, but this is a black circle. Don't you know, Father, how to draw an ocean? And don't you know that its color is blue? I tell him, my son, in my time, I was great at drawing oceans, but today they've taken from me the harpoon and the fishing boat. They've banned me from conversations with the color blue and from catching the fish of freedom. My son puts the drawing book in front of me and asks me to draw a wheat stalk. I hold the pen and draw a gun. My son mocks my ignorance, demanding, don't you know, Father, the difference between a wheat stalk and a gun? I tell him, son, once I used to know the shapes of wheat stalks, the shape of the loaf, the shape of the rose. But in this hardened time in which the trees of the forest have joined the militia, and the rose wears dull fatigues, in this time of armed wheat stalks, armed birds, armed culture, and armed religion, you can't buy a loaf without finding a gun inside. You can't pluck a rose in the field without its raising its thorns in your face. You can't buy a book that doesn't explode between your fingers. My son sits at the edge of my bed and asks me to recite a poem. A tear falls from my eyes onto the pillow. My son picks it up, astonished, saying, but this is a tear, Father, not a poem. And I tell him, when you grow up, my son, and read the diwan of Arabic poetry, you'll discover that the word and the tear are twins, and the Arabic poem is no more than a tear wept by writing fingers. My son lays down his pens, his crayon box in front of me, and asks me to draw him a homeland. The brush trembles in my hands, and I sink, weeping. That was Darsun fi الرسم, or A Lesson in Drawing, by Nizar Qabbani. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.